91 once we have verified the replacement of those items. The storage facility income at the bottom, the leases at this location run February through January. As of February, the rental space will be going up $5 a month to $55 per month for the 60 spaces. As we get into the expenses, I will show you why we did that and what that will be, what enhancement we're doing at that facility. The bottom of this is the transfers to the general fund, as we discussed. Again, this is in compliance with the state statute. Transfers to reserve fund for the courtyard. This is taking the money out of the dues collected by the courtyard residents and putting it into their section. And then we also are then taking the $553 per unit and transferring it over to the general storm damage reimbursement fund. The expenses haven't really changed a whole lot. We've touched on a couple of them. The mulch obviously has gone up due to the increase in materials, due to the increase in the number of homes we're doing, as well as due to the increase of the common areas that we're doing. Under storage facility expense, second item at the top, this is tied to the increase to where once phase 5 gets a little further developed by AV Homes, there is a cul-de-sac road that is near the facility. The utilities will be able to be extended at that point. The first step will be to extend the electric from that location to the storage facility. We're hoping that this will take place in the fourth quarter. And this is for the extension of the electric, the supplying and installing of 4 post lights, and all related electrical panels necessary in order to accomplish that. Again, there are not a lot of surprises or adds as it relates to the expense items as we go forward. The landscape replacement item at the top of this sheet is the same dollar amount. We are going to be slightly under that when we get all said and done with this year because we stopped the third plant replacement list. But with that going forward, as well as the quick initiation, hopefully we can do a better job of getting these replaced in a more timely fashion. But the dollar amount has remained the same. Our cable contract, we have not received notification that it's going up, but the last time we did this, we got it after the fact. So we have budgeted that we will be doing a 4% increase, which is what the contract calls for. Again, we have not received notification that that is what's going to happen. So we will do our best to try and not make it happen, but it is within the guidelines of the contract. Our landscape contracts remain the same. They are, the only differences is that we have more homes we are doing, and they have increased their contract amount as it relates to the additional home sites. Cypress Parkway is the same, and the common area is slightly additional to what we had prior due to the additional areas being developed currently at this point in time. The palm tree trimming, we went ahead and have renegotiated the price a little bit, but made sure that we had our 2 trimmings incorporated in this, which is what represents a slight decrease in the budget amount, but the scope of work is staying the same. The mulching, as stated, is going up predominantly because of the number of homes and additional common area, as well as the fact that we use more material than we had originally calculated for 2017. The areas that the caretaker program or the excess mulch removal, you'll see here listed Bella Viana, Volare, Verona, Portofino, Mira Vista, and Alta Vista. Those are the areas that instead of new mulch, we'll be getting what we call the caretaker program or balance in order to get the excess mulch off of those home sites. Power washing, we hope that that's going to be 2 times this year in 2018. This is the reserve accounts, which represent all the transfers, including for Hurricane Irma, all the expenditures, as well as for the storm damage. The reserve income represents the dollar amounts based on all the income, 80 homes, the insurance company, the residents' contribution versus the expenses. And obviously there will be an accounting at the end of the year to verify exactly where all that stands and how well we estimated what it was going to take to have it come back to a zero budget. This is the fee schedule that went out with the email regarding Hurricane Irma. I can toggle back and forth because it is 2 pages. At this point in time, I'd like to ask Bill Land, chairperson for the Solivita Advisory Committee, to come up and give a report.
Good afternoon. The advisory committee had a busy 2017. I'll recap for you our major accomplishments. We continue to revise and update the resident handbook, which I believe has been very helpful to new residents. We did a review of security and safety RFPs and made a recommendation based on our reviews. We also did a review of our governing documents, especially as they pertain to the HOA, for possible changes in the future. We reviewed and made recommendations for changes to the license plate recognition program. We unanimously recommended the purchase of a radar gun to be used by the Polk County Sheriff's deputies when they're on property. We recommended the increase in the HOA assessment to contribute to the reserve fund. During the year, we had guest speakers, including Jamar Edge, Director of Fitness and Wellness, the owners of K&M Drugs and Pharmacy Technicians. And at the end of the year, we received applications for new SAT members to replace those who are leaving the committee or replacing members who have resigned. So we will undergo organizational changes at the beginning of the year. And if these committee members are here, I would like for them to stand and be recognized. The terms of members Dave Dahlberg, Bernie Leach, and Bill Land expire at the end of 2017. Joining us in 2018 for 3-year terms are Lenny Vento and Marjorie Bertucci. Michael Leach will be completing the remainder of a term of a member who resigned in 2017. Continuing members are Kathy Laffey, Joyce Colon, our new chair, Barry Sparrow, Hal Smith, and Joe Ewing. And I would like to thank all those folks for their contributions to the council.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you for your interest and your concern. Now I'd like to introduce Donovan Brown, Chairperson of the Landscape Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Gary. I'd like to take you on just a little trip of where we've been and where we're going. I brought along some notes as my GPS to kind of guide me as I go along, and unfortunately, I forgot my glasses. So let's see where this journey takes us. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, most people who have not been on the landscape committee probably have no idea what we do. We meet monthly. The original organization of the landscape committee was basically, as I recall, I wasn't here from the very beginning, but when I first became involved with the landscape committee, we had five members, and those 5 members came from specific districts within the community, so that there was a person representing each district. As we've grown, our needs have grown, and we've taken on some additional responsibilities in the landscape committee, and we now have a committee of 12. And we have divided the community up into 12 different districts, and each person that's on the committee has an area that they are responsible for monitoring. The monitoring part was not a part of the original way that the landscape committee functioned. And by monitoring, each member has his area that he monitors. He supposedly goes throughout the community that he's monitoring every month prior to coming to the meeting. There's also a supervisor from 401 that he is asked by the committee to ride one day for an hour or so throughout his community, and just to pass along his comments directly to the supervisor of what he sees and what he thinks needs to be done. And when we have our monthly meetings, we start off with the normal types of functions of the meeting with roll call and so on and so forth, but then we have discussions of the current issues, and we have a report from Florian, and then each of the landscape committee members gives a report on the status of their community that they're monitoring. And we then get a report from our community services manager, Rudy Bautista. And if there happens to be anything that we need to do as committee business, then we dismiss the general session, and we go into a closed session to discuss anything that might pertain just to the committee. So that's kind of the way we function. And getting into the way things have happened this year, we had a transition. When I met with you last year and discussed, Florian had just been on site for, I think, about 2 months at that time. And I somewhat anticipated that it may be a little bit of a bumpy road for them taking off based on the experience that we had with our previous landscape contractor. It makes it easy when you come into the dormant season because things aren't growing so rapidly. The grass doesn't need to be cut so often. They reduce their manpower to adapt to that. But then when the growing season starts up, our previous experience with the previous landscape contractor was that's when everything just went to hell in a handbasket, if you want to put it that way. It just, everything became overwhelming and they never caught up. And that was a very disappointing situation. And I was afraid the floor line might get caught up into that same situation, but it didn't. It was seamless going from the dormant season into the growing season, and they've continued to keep up and do, in my opinion, an excellent job. We've taken on a couple of new projects this year that were actually not budgeted. We re-landscaped the entrance into Venetia. The landscaping there was getting quite deteriorated, a lot of old plants and so forth, and wasn't part of the landscape contract to do the sort of things that need to be done. So we basically ripped it out and started all over again, and it looks quite nice. The other thing that we did was most of you probably remember that coming down Village Drive and out in front of Village Drive on Solivita Boulevard, but there was just a lot of brush, high brush that grew up underneath the trees, and you couldn't even see the golf course when you drove along Solivita Boulevard. And the same down in front of the new community. This is where I need my notes. In front of Treviso and that area and Rainbow Lakes, there was just a lot of brush in there. We approached the board of directors and asked them if they would mind if we came in and made a major cleanup with all of those areas, and they approved it. Floorline went out and bought a special piece of equipment for doing that. It was like a huge mowing machine, but it just mowed down, things up to 4 inches in diameter and so forth. And it looks much better than it did, and we're very pleased. And in dealing with disasters, fortunately, we only had one. But it caused some major damage, but it could have been a lot worse. We're very fortunate that it didn't. And the initial brush removal was accomplished in record time. It just so happened that our manager, Gary Consorto, was in Tennessee at the time, so he wasn't around to help us out, Ohio. And then Brad Thompson, the manager of Floorline, was on a cruise in the Caribbean and couldn't get back. And so Rudy took over. Rudy jumped in and he organized everything, and in a very short time, he had things moving forward, and we really appreciate the efforts by Rudy. Floorline received a commendation by the residents. Most of you are aware of the effort that was put out by two of our lady residents that organized getting some funds together for putting on a very nice luncheon for them here. And we'd like to thank Pat and Diane for all of the time and effort that they put into it. As well as the residents who contributed. As far as the overall approval rating of Floorline, by our residents. The thermometer that I use is the comments that I get from people and the complaints that we get, the complaints that we don't get, and the time that we have to go out and try to settle disputes and so forth. It's amazing. They're not perfect. They're not keeping everybody completely happy. There are some people that probably will never be happy with the services. But overall, in my opinion, they are in the top rank of what they can be. And we're very pleased with them. We must realize that we've got 4,500 homes, more or less, and we're all senior citizens from various backgrounds and personalities, and it's not an easy task to keep everybody happy, I can assure you. So that's somewhat of where we've been. Now for a look at going forward, we still have the stumps to remove from the hurricane damage. That was held off for a while the board of directors were kind of deciding how they were going to handle this and so forth. But we did start moving forward on that a couple of weeks ago, and we anticipate having that all completed before the end of the month. One of the things that, if you happen to live in some of the older neighborhoods as opposed to the newer ones, a lot of our plants are getting old. Some plants just have extended their life. And so we're going to have to, in the future, start replacing quite a bit of certain types of plants that just aren't surviving under our conditions. And this is one of the things that we have to start addressing in the future. Following Irma, we hired a consultant arborist. We brought him in because it's been a concern of mine since I first came into Solivita that our street side live oak trees just don't grow the way they should. Our soil conditions in here are not ideal, and we brought this consulting arborist in to help us assess what the situation is and what we should do about it. One of the things he told us, he says, you're expecting live oak trees to grow in confined spaces where you have sometimes only 6 feet between a sidewalk and the street, and at that, not good growing conditions. And he says that it's not going to be a good situation. So we're in the midst of trying to decide what we're going to replant. We are going to replant sometime, probably beginning, I think, in maybe the second quarter. Is that about when we're anticipating starting it? In March.
Would be the best time.
And we still haven't decided exactly what we're going to replant. Some places we probably will replace some of the live oaks. The design of having the live oaks on our main boulevards and all of that is a very beautiful design. It's kind of part of what supposedly was designed to make Solivita have the beautiful look that it was anticipated to have. But in other places, we're probably going to replace them with other kinds of trees. As you probably know, if you happen to live in some of the newer areas, they're not planting strictly live oaks. They're planting elms and maples and other types of trees as the street side trees. There is a requirement, this is something that I became aware of, is we do have to have street side trees. That's a county ordinance, and we don't have an option not to replace them. And and even in the places where we have sidewalks, we have to put a tree back in there. And we're going to have to try to find a tree that will live in that confined space. The other thing that we are working on and we need to determine is what are the most appropriate trees to be planted for the future to be able to give our opinion to the HOA Board of Directors to work with who are also our developers, AV Homes, so that we have a tree that we can live with for a long time, and we don't have to keep replacing these trees. And this is another project that we're working strongly on right now. We're very fortunate that our developer, AV Homes, who presently holds all of the seats on the board of directors, listens to us. They've approved the new projects that we mentioned earlier today. That I mentioned a few minutes ago. And they approved hiring a consulting arborist to come in and help us decide where we want to go with the trees. And just a couple of weeks ago, when they were trying to decide what they were going to do about removing the stumps, we asked them to please go ahead and move forward with this because we didn't want to continue to live with these stumps in the ground. And the very next day, they gave the approval to move forward. So we have a good interaction with the board of directors, and we appreciate that. The landscape portions of the 2017 budget represented 56% of the total HOA budget. We take that responsibility seriously as committee members representing Solivita, and we hope to be able to spend the money the best way, and we hope to keep the community looking as great as we possibly can. So I look forward to working with the board of directors to accomplish our goals for 2018 and fulfill our mission statement, which is the Solivita Landscape Committee, as representatives of the Solivita community, strives to assure that the quality of the landscape environment of Solivita contributes to the overall quality of living for all Solivita residents. We thank you very much, and I want to give a special thanks to Gary. Gary's been a big help to us in our committee, and he's done a lot for our community, and we wish you well.
Thank you, Don. Gary, come on up here. This is the time to do it. I know people start sneaking out here as we go through the questions and answers and adjourn the meeting. Before we do that, I want to just thank Gary. Because some of you guys know, I was telling a lot of people in the back, this is his last day. He's retiring. He's going off in retirement land. He's going to play a lot of golf and enjoy himself. So we're truly blessed to have had Gary over the last couple of years, especially here in Evergreen, and also here on site at Solivita. He's been very blessed with the gift of telling people black and white and how it is. I've been very thankful to have him here. I know the committee members from the advisory, the landscape committee, and the staff that are sitting over here to the right have been very blessed with Gary, just with his leadership, his professionalism, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the board too as well. I know those guys have dealt with Gary quite a bit. Thank you very much. We wish you the best in your retirement, and we have a little gift for you, Mandy, my Vanna. This will help him in retirement, even though we have a lot of other local Solivita stuff, so we're gonna deck his bag out. I'm actually gonna get his name put on it, Solivita on there too, so he can't ever forget us. So wherever he goes, he's gonna have Solivita on it. But Gary, thank you again. Appreciate everything you've done, and we're gonna miss you truly. So, and come back and visit whenever. So we never miss you. Thank you.
I saw the bag coming out, but I didn't see the signage on it. For those of you that don't know, I'm a graduate of Notre Dame, so they got me a Notre Dame golf bag. Community stats, here's some updates. The total units 4387, we are assuming we're going to have closer to 4450 by the time the first rolls around, based on the construction that's taking place. We've had 127 closings through October, 178 resales. Again, we're hoping for the 4450 as our starting point, and AV Homes is anticipating 219 closings for 2018. Coming out of compliance department, architectural requests, 2,101. So if you have a challenge sometimes getting a hold of somebody in compliance, think about that number and give them a day to get back to you. Top architectural requests, landscape alterations, 484, screen enclosures, 314, house painting, 288, and roofing, 277. This is where I would open it back up again to questions and answers. If anybody's got any questions that I may not have covered previously, please walk up to the microphone.
Alan Cone, 316 Indian Wells. The auxiliary parking by the ponds, is that supposed to be just for cars or also for golf carts? Because I keep seeing a lot of golf carts in there.
It is designed solely for cars. I have seen, and again, it's a enforcement issue. Security is aware of it. They are to be putting tickets on the situation. I know it has helped immensely, and I would almost defer to Sherry to comment, but from what I gather, the fact that at nights at the ponds, which is when the majority of the issues take place, that it is virtually solely for the cars, taking it up and getting them off of San Clemente and Barcelona, and that was the major role. But again, it's an ongoing challenge for security and our vendor.
The other day, I mean, I saw at least a dozen in there, but there was plenty of parking for golf carts in the regular Palms lot.
I don't disagree at all. It's an ongoing issue to try and get people to park where we've tried to set them up to go.
My name is Larry Bennett, currently residing at 105 Auburn Drive. I purchased here in June 2001. We moved in full-time March of 2002. First, I want to thank Gary particularly because he's put up with a lot of my questions, and Craig for his support. Regarding my questions up to this point and to include the 2018 budget, I've learned a lot, and hopefully y'all have too. I've reviewed the proposed 2018 budget. I've asked several questions, and I saw several answers that I've already received. There are a few issues that continue to be repeated year after year. A lot of them fall to the responsibility of the board as opposed to the management company who only acts in the capacity for the board. But in any case, one of the questions that I come up with, and I asked this last year and I didn't get an answer, so I'm going to try it again this year. Has the HOA ever paid the developer the $37,262 loan from the developer? Nobody knows what I'm talking about, but it's in the budget, and you can't even tell what it's for. But I'd like to find out if we ever paid the HOA, or if the HOA ever paid the developer back. The second thing is, what are the results of the audit that was going to be done by Cole and Associates to determine what money should be in the reserve account? If you'll recall, last year I raised this issue, and the comment was made that yes, we'll have Cole and Associates look into the reserve history and determine what money should go where, general fund, vis-a-vis courtyards, etc. I haven't seen the results of that report.
Never got done.
I'm glad I requested it. The next question is, the turnover of the homeowners association is set to cover 90% of the sold units. Yet, is that based on total sold units or units by phase? Seems to me, I've seen in recent correspondence, that the determination is not only of total units, but total units within a phase. I think we have something like 20 phases here. Does that mean that 90% of the units have to be sold in each of those phases before we get it? Or is it 90% of the 5,596 units that we keep quoting, which is it?
Yeah, let me answer your question before, and then I'll answer that one too as well. The courtyard reserves, the reserve funding for that, AV Homes, of course, was doing the HOA with John Corners when he was here, all the way up until 2011. Those financials from basically 2000 to 2011 for the HOA side, I don't have, Cole Associates does not have, okay? So that's the issue with that. But I will tell you on the in and out, Larry, as far as what is the bond, termite bond price, what that is, what your painting is of the courtyards, what that's estimated, and also for the power washing, we know what those figures are. So it's a cash in, cash out, okay? As far as what the expenditure is for the bond, we know what that is, okay? So that's what's on your sheet in your breakout. We know what the painting is for the villas, and it's only on those homes that are constructed, not ones that are coming, it's ones that are constructed. The power washing, we know what that price is. So it is an income in and expense out. So there's really, it shouldn't be a reserve line item. Larry, me and you have had this discussion. This should be more of an O&M operational side of it, and it's set up with its own budget. So I'm working with Cole Associates to bring up the past history. I don't have it. AV Homes does not have it. We don't have it. So that's just information of the HOA financial I don't have. 2011, 2012, 2013, I do have.
I'd be glad to share with you the information that was published by your predecessors regarding what was supposedly put in the courtyard reserve and what was expended for the courtyard reserve. I mean, it's right there in their documents. You have to dig for it.
Correct.
But in any case.
Let me get to the second point. Your second point was on
90%.
90%, yes, it's 90% of the total units that are on build out, okay? So what they have platted, what that number is, it's 90% of that number, okay? It's not by phase, it's not by parcel, it's Solivita, because we merged Solivita